Well, hello folks. Welcome back. Open Pagan Church. Well, we're going to kind of get a couple of public service announcements out of the way, if you will. Um, we're going to kind of have to be careful what kind of music we play on the opening of Open Pagan Church in the morning. I like to start the broadcast about 5 minutes to give people a chance to locate the channel. The Facebook and YouTube police have dinged me several times with copyright infringements. I get it. We are going to have to start using what they call duty-free or copyright-free music for a bit. And you know how hard it is to find copyright-free pagan music? I'll keep searching around. On another note, I got a nice little surprise this morning. If you search Facebook for Pagan Church, Open Pagan Church is #1 listing on Facebook. Pretty cool. In other news, I don't have any other news. If anybody else has any other news, feel free to post it down in chat. Our topic for today, if you look up in the title area, is the perplexing paradox of the word religion. Now, I've done broadcasts in the past on faith, spirituality, and what it is to have faith and spirituality. And in my experience, there is a difference between spirituality and religion. Religion has typically come to mean the politics of such. Now, some don't see it that way, and that's fine. But I did a little research this morning, as I do, and I have found a couple of pages that I'd like to use for reference. First thing we have to understand, and we're going to jump right on in here at 3 minutes past start. Let's see, let me get my first page pulled up over here. Alright, Kimmy. Play nice. Alright, so first thing we want to understand is what the word paradox actually means. And I'll bring that up a little bit so that it's easier to see. Right? The word paradox, according to Webster Dictionary, is a statement that is seemingly contradictory or opposed to common sense and yet is perhaps true. Religion essentially is a descriptive word. It's something that means a gathering or a conglomeration, if you will, of like-minded people. Well, that sounds a lot like church, doesn't it? However, a religion, and being in America, we have, quote, freedom of religion, unquote. Choke. Well, understanding the word paradox, the next thing we need to understand is how old is the word religion? What was the first documented religion in the world? Well, some would say Babylonian or Mesopotamian. Not at all. I found some rather interesting research this morning on dates that best research can find at this moment of the oldest known religions on the globe. Now, there will be some, and you know that I don't like to do Christian bashing on this channel, but there will be some that will say Christianity is the only religion, the oldest religion, and it started with Adam and Eve. Nope. It's not. We would say paganism is the oldest religion known to man, and that can pretty much be backed up, though the word pagan was developed by the Romans, had a rather derogatory term back then, but paganism today derives from polytheistic. Good morning, Ann. Or share. Anne. Ah, good morning, Anne. Welcome. But when we're talking about paradox, these are things that generally cause people concern for thought. And when we're talking about the word religion and where it comes from, well, in my research this morning and through the years, um, you got to understand I have studied the multitudes of different religions a lot far back as I can remember. But let's take a look at what I found this morning. And I will post this link in the chat so that you guys can happily read for yourself. You know me, I'm all about sharing where I get my data. All right, bring this up so it's easier to see. There we go. Okay, so the first thing that ancient.eu talks about is the word religion, right? And according to Cairo, meaning to repeat, to read again, and are likely religionum. Religionum. Sounds a lot better when I read it to myself. Are showing respect what is sacred. Now, as pagan, we are absolutely really big on showing respect for what is sacred. There are thousands of pagan paths that would be known in modern times as denominations of paganism, if you will. But if you think about it, I really liked this line right here. It really stuck out to me because I've talked about multiple times where human beings, as it stands, human beings tend to be the only creature on the planet that needs some form of spirituality and our religion. And that's proven time and time again through a little bit of research and looking around and listening to people. There's no there is no culture recorded in human history which has not practiced some form of religion. Well, if we go down, a lot of your religions, well, most of your religions come from different forms of mythology, right? And we've talked about this before, where mythologies are kind of folk tales. They're things that the bards handed down for hundreds of years. The storytellers, which is what a bard is, has traveled the world, if you will, writing down their observations, their history, their observation of things that are going on at the time. And they come back to the smaller villages and they report that. Mythology, essentially, simplistically, is something that cannot necessarily be proven. It is a myth. Um, you know, we're not even going to get into that. So if we understand what, um, you know, where religion comes from, where the word religion comes from, and we understand kind of where it's going, what it used to mean and what it means today has varied quite a bit. Today, most of people use the word religion as a power word, as a way to control, if you will. Seems is believed. And there's always been one society or another that believed there was one God among all gods. But if they believe there's one God among gods and men, hmm, that means that there are, in my interpretation, multiple gods and goddesses. Hmm. So if we come down, and you guys can go through and read this as you want, what I wanted to get down to was the actual time basis of these. Oh, come on. Really? If you look here, Egyptian religious practices come from around 3400 BCE, before Common Era. There are a number of religions that date back even before that to what they 6000 BCE. And you think about Hinduism. Hinduism belief includes 330 million gods. 330 million gods. That's a lot to keep up with. I apologize for the adverts in the upper right hand corner. So when you start thinking about the paradox of the word religion, what is it? And me, on this channel, I like to wind things up a bit. So let's wind things up a bit, shall we? If we think about the paradox, the word religion, and the paradox of it, it seemingly makes no sense. If we wind ourselves up too much, then we can find ourselves in a issue where we're almost to the point of atheism. So much of the time I understand where atheists come from, because they look at all of the paradoxical philosophies of religion in the world, and they wonder what proof is there. Well, I say, as a pagan minister, proof is in the faith. And the proof is in each one of us, of things that have happened to us, things that have helped us through the years, make it through the very things that we try to make it through. But if we think about the actual paradox, if we think about the actual timing of the different religions, let's go back over here and take a look at another page, and I will post that page in the chat as well. Good morning to those of you just joining. So if we think about the oldest religions, right? The oldest religions that they can track back, you're talking Hinduism, 15th and 5th century BCE. For those of you that don't know what BCE stands for, It stands for common error. Era. Bleh. Anyway, BCE typically typically comes down to what some people would say before Christ. You know, when you're talking about the timing of the world, BCE was essentially meant before Christ or common era. And I liked the part when I was reading the top paragraph that it says Hinduism may not be a unified religion per se or organized into a distinctive belief system. And you know, if you think about it, doesn't that hold true for many of the ancient religions? When we're thinking about where the word religion comes from. And then we step down into. Now, I tried to pronounce this, and I know full well I'm going to massacre the hell out of it. No, I'm not even going to try it. You guys can have fun with trying to figure that one out. But it's interesting, known as native, there's another word I can't pronounce. Boy, I'm slipping this morning. But these folk were documented to be around the second millennium BCE. Now, the first thing you have to understand, and Zoroastrianism, nope, I'm still not going to try it. Debbie sent me a breakdown of the word, and I went, nope, I'm not even going to try that. I can't get my lips wrapped around it, and my tongue won't do it. So there. The first thing that we need to understand, and some younger people, some younger folk, really don't. Good morning to those of you just joining. Some people don't realize where or how it's counted from BCE backwards. Some people would call it AD BC, right? After death, before Christ. But you first have to understand that when you reach zero, okay, like this video was done in 2019. Well, that's 2019 years, supposedly, after the death of Christ, theoretically, when time started, if you will. Some people call it the birth of Christ, and well, that's okay. But science, and I tend to be relatively science minded, and I tend to incorporate a lot of my faith with science. So if we think about how BCE, before Common Era, is considered, once you reach zero, you start counting up again. So if you have one that's listed 10th century BCE, then you start at zero and you're talking 1,000 years before Common Era. You put a zero on that 10th century. That's, if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, but that's kind of the way I've always seen it. It's 10 centuries and there's 100 years to a century. Or is that a millennium? Is it 100 years to a millennium? I think a century. Anyway, millennium. No, millennium is 1,000 years. A century is 100 years. Whew, hell, I can't even keep up with it. Yeah, there's another one I can't pronounce. The Middle Eastern and Hindu religions, um, 1,000 years is millennium. Yeah, okay, I was right. 100 years is a century. Okay, yep, thank you for that. Yep, I was right. Son of a gun. There's another one I can't pronounce. Judaism didn't come around until the 9th century BCE. And Judaism is really old. But you want to hear something rather interesting? It was founded for all other religions. And as I've said before, Judaism is the oldest monotheistic belief system that has been documented to date. And if you do a little research on where Amun Ra got the sun god, if I remember my history correctly, it would have come from a gentleman named David. Not King David, but the David from Mesopotamia. And you can research all of that later. But if you'll find, so far we're already seeing a paradox building in the word religion. Jainism. Um, Now, here's one that I've talked about many times before. This is another one of those that isn't actually a religion, Confucianism. Some people call it Confucianism, but it's Confucianism. That one I have studied in great detail. Confucianism and Buddhism. Now, they're not religions, right? Invariably be traced to one man. He was a Chinese politician, teacher, and philosopher. Confucius, 551 BCE, before Common Era. It's not an actual religion. And a lot of people, especially nowadays, where the hell they got it from, I don't know. But Confucianism and Buddhism is a discipline. It is not a religion. And you can read that on the last post I did. There's Buddhism. There's Taoism. Never could pronounce that one either. Shintoism. And I like the way this guy writes. He puts in a note on mythology. You know, um, it's it does. It determines a religious basis depending on the mythology of your area on the planet, the village or group of people in which you were raised with. The mythology of your people determines a lot of your belief systems about um, about how you see the word religion. So anyway, I went ahead and exited those pages. They are put over here. Let's see. Yeah. So those are where I kind of got my information from. Now, I want to kind of play, oh, I don't know, some would call it devil's advocate for a bit. If religion, not spirituality, so don't get ready to string me up by my toenails here. not spirituality and not faith. I'm getting tangled up in my damn cord. Stay over there. But if we think about religion, why do we need it? Why do we even want it? In common circles, especially today in the year 2019, and it's been this way for quite a long time that I can remember, and I've been around a few years, a couple, but as long as I can remember, when you come into the conversation of religion, people run for the hills, or there are those that will get instantaneously defensive. And I'm talking about defensive to the point where they instantaneously want to fight. Now, I can tell you at my job, on the section of the service desk that I run, we have three religious philosophies that sit on our desk. We have me, who is pagan. We have one who is very heavy Christian, but he doesn't proselytize to people. By the way he acts and by the way he is definitely Christian. Then we have one who is just essentially an open-minded Christian just trying to live his way. And then we have an atheist. So on my desk alone, on my service desk alone, I have three, actually four, different religious philosophies of a sort. Now, what makes the word religion a paradox is this. The action of the word religion truly has no meaning except for those that choose to give it meaning. Now, we could argue that most other words in the dictionary have the same ideology. If we choose to give the word in the dictionary meaning, and it's the associated meaning in the dictionary, then we give that word power. Now, the word religion and the topic and the discussion thereof tends to strike a varied, wide range of emotions in people. So what makes it a paradox? It has meaning, but yet it does not. Or does it? And see, this is one of those topics where you can really wind yourself up in a really tight little ball, defining it all the way down to nothing. And if you're one of those individuals that likes to analyze every thought process all the way down to the atom, in my opinion, you're going to have a rough go of it. You're going to have a rough life, because there are some things in life we just simply have to kind of accept, you know. And I think the word religion and the meaning of it to different people is one of those situations where we just have to accept it. And it makes it perplexing, which is the reason I came up with the topic for today's conversation. The perplexing paradox of religion. There's so many people that use the word religion to perform very hateful and very tasteless acts against other human beings. Now, me, I find that very dishonorable, very destructive, and I find it very distasteful. As far back as I can remember, even when I was involved in some of the stupid stuff I was involved in my early to mid teens and early 20s, I was tried to be respectful of others most of the time. My halo is going to fall off my head here one side. But the paradox of the word religion within and of itself is a cause of much of the strife in the world. And as you all know, I live in America. I live in Texas. And I watch a lot of news and I listen to different forms of news because I don't ever really like to take one source word for it. But when we see videos and we see the strife and the anxieties and anger and destruction taking place in the world today, it gives great cause for concern as to where society is going. And over the last 15, 20 years, the advent of the internet has brought the world together in a global communication hub where things that happen in the Middle East, somebody's got a cell phone and somebody's streaming and the world's going to see it. Once it gets on the internet, it cannot completely, totally be deleted. Like I've told my daughter, bless her heart, when you post something on the internet, it's there. It's on a server somewhere out in the abyss, out in the cloud. You can delete it from one place, but it's going to be another. So when we think about the sociology of the word religion, societies have been bonded together and exploded apart using the word religion. Societies have been pitted against each other by using the word, or the phrase, if you will, religious discrimination. That's another word that winds me up to no end, the word discrimination. I'm not going to look it up. Most all of us have a clear meaning of what the word discrimination is, what it means, and how it's used, because if you're pagan, I promise, if you're pagan, you have at some point by someone been discriminated against. And that's just like, I can't say African American because I'm not just talking about America. But if you take people of color, and I want to say something. If you take people of color globally, now understand me. When I say people of color globally, I'm talking about Caucasian, black, brown, I'm talking about all of the different variable shades of brown. When I was growing up, the term for the Oriental people were yellow skinned. I've known many Oriental people. They Their skin doesn't look yellow to me, but that's my perception. But people of color globally are not accepted in all areas of the globe, and they should be. People of different faiths, people of different lifestyles, people of different love or sexual preferences. The whole paradox of the word religion has been used to control societies since, like I showed over here, the beginning. I would like to think that someday, probably not in my lifetime, people will be viewed as people, not as a religious sect, not as a lifestyle sect, not as a color, not as a religion, but they'll be viewed as people. They'll be viewed as human beings. I am a really big proponent of human rights, not religious rights, not sexual preference rights, not individual rights. When we talk about human rights, we need to remove religion, sexual preference, color, and geographic orientation. Because unless you get down to the science of it, if you have 100 people and you peel the skin off of those 100 people, you can't just look at them and tell what part of the planet they're from. Not without getting into the whole science of it and looking at structure and putting your little magnifying glass up there. If you just take 100 people and you peel the skin off of them, men and women alike, and you line them up, you cannot tell where they're from. You can't tell what color they are. You can't tell how much education they have. You can't tell what their lifestyle is. You cannot tell what their sexual orientation is. So the very word religion has given a false sense of power to religious leaders, if you will. And there was a period of time, having seen religious leadership firsthand and the politics thereof, there was a period of about 8 or 10 years when we lived down south between Houston and Beaumont that I was a part of the whole South Central pagan system, and I belonged to several elder boards, if you will, that sought out to unify the pagan community. And there ended up being so much internal strife and drama and innuendo amongst the internal pagan communities, the very leadership of the pagan community that was trying to bring the community together, that the very group itself, the very unified group itself, split apart, which blew apart all of the very different pagan associations that it was trying to pull together. Using the word religion for power. I found that disappointing, destructive, disheartening. So nowadays I'm just the minister of a church and the founding member of a grove of shamans, if you will. But I try to shy away from religious politics. Now, if you want to talk politics, I'll jump right off in there with you. You're not going to like most of my theories and ideas about politics, and that's okay. I don't I don't live my philosophies for anyone but myself. But therein lies the whole reason why the word religion has become a paradox. It has essentially become, and I think I'm going to close with this statement. The word religion has essentially become a paradox because people have made it so. They've given the word more power than they've given the spiritual architecture that religion was supposed to have been founded on back in the beginning of religions themselves. Like we saw on the one link, over 6,000 years BCE. Older than that, but they're still digging and they're still finding proof in archaeology. No one religion in the world has control or domination of any other religion in the world. I don't care if your religion is the follower of the stone god or if your religion follows cows and pigs and chickens. You, within your human right, are perfectly fine to believe in that. However, and I'll say this, you, and whatever religion you are, do not have the right to superimpose or force upon your religion on me or anyone else. I say that we should strive to bring the word religion back to a simple descriptive term of multiple faiths, beliefs, ideologies, and paths. Let's take the word religion out of destructive behavior and attacking on our fellow human beings. The paradox of the word religion has been made a paradox by people, by humans, not by definition. As always, thank you very much for watching Open Pagan Church, and we'll see you next time right here. Have a great week. Have a wonderful day.